Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. Shop online and get $30 off your first online order when you use code SAFE30 at checkout. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in store. Get started at Safeway.com or the Safeway app. Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado, proudly calling Colorado home for over 90 years. Dedicated to showing up for the community and putting people first. Credit Union of Colorado. Learn more at cuofco.org.
Rocky Ford counterfeit cantaloupe, purported Palisade peaches.
Olathe scammy sweet corn, perjurious Pueblo chilies.
A bill moving through the state legislature wants to prevent falsely labeling produce as being grown in Colorado when it wasn't.
Fie, Arlo. Who would do such a thing?
Monsters, Dan, monsters. But sponsors of the bill say it's actually a problem. Bogus Colorado fruits and vegetables are stocked everywhere, from grocery store shelves to farmers markets. Not even roadside stands are safe.
This bill threatens to slap anyone mislabeling their produce with deceptive trade practices. And you'd need a sign-off from the state ag department before you could put the Colorado Proud label on your products.
The bill has already passed the State House and is making its way to the Senate.
No word on whether people grown out of state are prevented from wearing a Colorado Proud sticker.
Wait, like what? Like on their shirt?
Look, I'm no lawyer, but it does seem like that would still be allowed.
What we do know, though, is that if you're an Idaho potato masquerading as a San Luis Valley spud, watch out. Your days may be numbered. I'm Arlo Perez Esquivel.
And I'm Dan Boyce. Coming up, 2 new measles cases are causing disruption for some students at a Front Range high school.
There's a lot of places you can pick up measles now, and so I think you have to expect we're going to see more here in Colorado.
And Denver is auditioning for a starring role in the next presidential election.
Hello, Democrats!
Then, a pipe bombing trial, decades in the making, is delayed in Grand Junction.
There was hundreds of witnesses on the original trial list. At least 20 of them are deceased.
Plus, a young Denver musician who really shreds.
It was so crazy because it was only once I started being authentic to myself that everything I had dreamed of in high school came to me overnight.
It's Wednesday, March 4th. Here's the news in Colorado today. Public health officials are concerned about potential measles exposures along the Front Range after another case was identified at Broomfield High School. CPR's John Daly.
This is the second case at Broomfield High. Neither of the students had received the measles, mumps, and rubella, or MMR, vaccine. That's according to a joint press release from the State Health Department and the Adams County Health Department. And, I should note that school immunization data shows that Broomfield High has about a 97% vaccination rate for MMR vaccine, and that's above the 95% herd immunity threshold needed to prevent a rise in cases in the community. But we know that measles is highly contagious, and the 2 students who caught measles are unvaccinated.
This is the 3rd confirmed case of measles in Colorado so far this year. That is compared to 36 last year, which may feel like we're trending in the right direction. But cases are on the rise nationally.
We have a big country where people are traveling through airports and places like that. There's a lot of places you can pick up measles now, and so I think you have to expect we're going to see more here in Colorado.
State officials are investigating the recent string of positive cases here. They're warning about potential exposures at the high school, as well as a Chick-fil-A in Broomfield and a Chipotle in Westminster. In the meantime, unvaccinated students and staff at Broomfield High School
will need to stay away from the school for 21 days, which is the incubation period for this virus. And if they get vaccinated, then they can come back to school after that 21-day period is over.
That's the protocol, according to the Colorado law, which reflects the CDC guidance. The state's top health official reiterated that the best way to protect yourself, your family, and your community from this highly contagious disease is by getting the MMR vaccine.
Have you been around Colorado long enough to remember this?
It's time for us to change America, and that's why I'm running for president of the United States.
Barack Obama accepted the presidential nomination on a summer night in Denver nearly 2 decades ago. It was the last time the city hosted the Democratic National Convention. Now, Denver wants another chance. The city is a finalist for the 2028 convention. Denverites Andrew Kenny.
It's a finally kind of secretive process. Like, it was an open secret for a while. The city and federal officials weren't allowed to say that they wanted Denver to be in the running, but everybody knew that Denver was in the running. And so what we learned this week was that, yes, Denver is not just in the running, but is one of 5 finalists. Also in the running are Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, and Atlanta.
As for Denver's pitch,
well, I don't have a particularly impassioned pitch myself, but if you listen to our Democratic delegation, a lot of their message was that logistically, Denver was going to make sense.
Denver, for example, has one of the biggest airports in the country, and the A-line could whisk delegates from baggage claim straight to downtown. But choosing a convention city is also about optics. What does the location say about where the party is focused?
What I'm curious about is whether we have the same kind of message and hook to host the DNC that we did 20 years ago. The message was that the Democrats were going to take Colorado because at the time it was still a purple state leaning red. You know, George W. Bush had won the state twice. Bob Dole had won the state. And so when the Democrats said, we're coming to Denver, it was very much saying, like, Democrats are going to compete in Colorado. They're going to compete throughout more of this western area. And obviously, they were correct in that kind of flag planting. And 20 years since, Democrats have won 5 presidential elections in a row here, have really dominated state politics. So Democrats coming to Denver in 2028 would not be sending that message of expanding their territory. It would be perhaps pointing to Colorado as a place that they've succeeded.
The DNC would bring tens of thousands of people to Denver, filling hotels and restaurants around the city. But it would also come with a massive police presence. More than 1,500 local officers and thousands of federal agents descended on Denver in 2008.
This is a massive event, and in the past, cities have been able to count on the federal government to provide millions of dollars in funding to help run security. And some Democrats in other cities have been asking questions about whether the Trump administration would be a good partner, considering that the city of Denver is constantly doing legal battle and locking horns with the Trump administration. It would be a difficult collaboration, you know?
The DNC hasn't set a date to announce the winning city, but if past is prologue, that decision won't come until spring 2027.
A Grand Junction trial, decades in the making, will take a bit longer to reach the courtroom. In the early 90s, James Genrich was found guilty of a series of pipe bombings that killed 2 people. But a few years ago, a judge tossed out the forensic science used in the trial and ordered a new one. But getting that new trial underway is proving difficult. CPR's Tom Hess has been following the case. Hey there, Tom.
Hello.
Okay, we got a 3-decade-old case, so what is the essential that we need to know?
Well, Genrich was sentenced to life in prison for these bombings. It was explosives that were kind of left all over town in a restaurant parking lot outside of the convention center. One was planted in the wheel well of a van. The bombings killed a man named Henry Rubel and a 12-year-old Maria Dolores Gonzalez. A key piece of evidence used in that conviction was testimony from a tool mark expert. The expert said that Genrich's tools that were found in his apartment were the only ones that could have made the markings found on this exploded bomb to the exclusion of all others, was the phrase that they used. Now, that's obviously quite a claim, and decades later, a report from the National Academy of Sciences concluded that this sort of tool mark analysis was not scientifically reliable. Attorneys for the Innocence Project brought that evidence to court, and a new trial was ordered.
Oh, so the Innocence Project is involved.
They are, and it's a big team. It's got attorneys from Colorado and also the guy who literally wrote the book on junk science in forensic cases. Now, the Innocence Project argues that prosecutors were looking for ways to pin this crime on Genrich because he was sort of socially awkward, maybe aloof, but all the evidence, they say, outside of that tool mark was circumstantial. And of course, Genrich has always maintained his innocence.
Okay, so the project was successful in persuading the judge to order a new trial. What's been happening since?
Yeah, that was back in 2023 that first order went through. The district attorney's office fought that ruling. They argued the tool mark testimony was not the linchpin of the case. Basically, Genrich would have been convicted anyways. But those appeals failed, and the court set a new trial date for April.
Okay, but now it's been delayed.
Indeed. Initially, it looked like attorneys were pretty eager to get things going. Genrich's team declined to waive speedy trial rights. That's the rule that you got to get a trial done within 6 months. However, in late February, they filed for a continuance. They're looking to delay this thing, and the district attorney's office said they didn't have a problem with that. Yesterday, the judge gave them another 6 months to get that trial done.
So why the holdup?
Essentially, it's the size and the scope, and as we've talked about, the history of this trial. There are at least 20,000 pages of documents that they have to go through. For point of comparison, Tolstoy's novel War and Peace is like between 1,200 and 1,400 pages, depending on what you're looking at.
You should know Spark Notes for this one, I guess.
No, I mean, I think the kids use Claude today. But yes, in addition to other files they have to go through, there was hundreds of witnesses on the original trial list. At least 20 of them are deceased. You got to remember that thing was more than 30 years ago. They're also waiting on additional tests and reports. They're looking at a fingerprint that was left on one of the bomb, a latent print. Genrich's defense team has tried to argue in these court filings that some of the delay is because they are not getting the information from the prosecutors that they need fast enough. But the district attorney's office disputes that. They say they're providing what they have to as quickly as they can.
I've been hearing about this trial for a while, but we're in the news. How about in Grand Junction? Is it the talk of the town?
It comes and goes as far as interest locally. I mean, this has been one of the most notorious cases in Grand Junction. There's a Forensic Files episode about it. And when it comes up, you'll hear some more stories about it, particularly people who were there at the time. But because it has taken so long to get anywhere, eventually people's attention moves elsewhere.
So then, where is Genrich now? Has he been released since the original trial was vacated?
He has not. He's still at the Arkansas Valley facility in Crowley County. Again, a life in prison sentence. He was scheduled to be transferred to Mesa County for some pretrial hearings, but now it looks like both parties are going to meet later this month instead to discuss a new timeline for what's going to happen in this case.
Tom, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next story features a Denver-born musician who's made a name for herself in heavy metal and alternative music, playing her signature string instrument. Can you guess what she plays? Hint, it's not a bass or a guitar. If you guessed electric violin, ding ding! 26-year-old Mia Asano kicked off her first solo tour in LA last weekend. She's a graduate of Denver School of the Arts and played with the Denver Young Artist Orchestra. Asano recently talked to Sandy Patulga about the influences that shaped her musical path, including the music director who encouraged her to try new things.
He understood that I wasn't trying to just be a classical violinist. I was trying to venture into other styles. To support me, he would come to all of my shows, like with my Viking rock band and all these things. So then there was this one performance where we were doing a orchestral version of Bohemian Rhapsody, and he asked me to play the lead part on my electric violin. And it was kind of the first time I really felt accepted by the classical community to do my thing, but with the orchestra.
After high school, Asano attended Berklee College of Music in Boston, an experience she found both challenging and humbling.
In Denver, I was one of the only electric violinists. So then I get to Berklee, and everyone there in the string department is doing the same thing as me, and they're all at the same level as me, or they're way better than me. And it caused me to kind of have this imposter syndrome moment.
But an opportunity to study abroad helped her rediscover her passion for music. Asano studied flamenco and jazz in Spain, which she says helped her remember why she became a musician in the first place. Not fame or money, but a love of music. Ironically, shortly after that epiphany, fame found her when she started posting videos for fun to TikTok, playing along with pop, metal, and rock music.
The third video that I posted went viral overnight, and I woke up the next morning with 100,000 followers. It was so crazy because it was only once I started being authentic to myself that everything I had dreamed of in high school came to me overnight.
Asano has used her higher profile to advocate for more open conversations around mental health. She tries to highlight resources during her shows and in her music videos. It's a focus she says comes from a very personal place. A number of years ago, one of her bandmates in the DSA orchestra died by suicide, and last year, she lost her best friend in the same way.
My goal now is to really spread awareness about how important mental health is and how important it is to speak up if you're struggling and if you need help. There's a lot of resources out there, but people don't always know where to turn, and they don't always have the ability to speak up and ask for help.
Asano is now touring the East Coast and Midwest. She doesn't have any Denver dates set for this tour, but says she still wants to play a hometown show. And she's got a new album coming out soon. You can find a link to the full interview with Colorado Matters and details about that upcoming album in our show notes.
Reporting for today's show came from CPR's Sandy Batulga. Follow Colorado Today in your podcast app. I'm Arlo Perez Esquivel.
And I'm Dan Boyce. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. Save a trip to the doctor and let their pharmacists test and prescribe your medications. From strep throat to birth control to UTIs and migraines. Stop into the store or schedule online at safeway.com/pharmacy. Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado, proudly calling Colorado home for over 90 years. Dedicated to showing up for the community and putting people first. Credit Union of Colorado. Learn more at cuofco.org.